Good evening, Marilyn. It's so lovely to have you. I think it's lunchtime your end, right? Me.
Yes, I
Oh,
had an early lunch just so my stomach wouldn't growl while we were talking.
brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's evening here, so food's already, yeah, happening here. But it's really lovely to see you again and to have you come back to talk to us about your thoughts about the R3 or anything around this idea of repurposing, reusing things, and extending the life of our garments. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. So just a quick introduction. This is Marilyn R Wilson. I'm a very good friend of mine who lives in Vancouver, and she is an amazing person, a writer. You will explain. I think you'll be better doing that.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the R3 campaign, and just a quick recap on what this is. The R3 campaign is just the three words: reduce, reuse, recycle. So for me, as a sustainable, circular fashion designer, these words underpin my thinking and the way I work. So it's just reduce, reuse, recycle. And now, as creatives, we have to think about that fashion industry's impact on the environment. And I could not ignore that when I decided to go down this path. So it just kind of pushed me into thinking differently. And one of the things that I find is that I combine good design with sustainability. And that, within short, sustainable by design is what came out as a phrase that I use and constantly surround myself with. Thinking that way has helped me kind of think and push boundaries and do things that maybe I never would have done. So the conversation here is the fact that it's not just the people who make the garments. The idea is that the people who use the garments as well need to be aware of what goes into the making of these garments and what is happening in the world, that they will also then make the choices to use their garments longer, or when they buy differently. And so by understanding the story behind what we use and how will impact and how we use it, that's the idea. The conversation is not just the person who's making, it's the person who's using. So this is what the R3 campaign is all about. The focus is on everyone. Okay, great. So Marilyn, please introduce yourself and welcome.
Hi, it's good to be here. Just a really super brief background is in 2006, so 15 years ago, my kids were teenagers and I was looking for something to do and ended up answering a ad from a fashion magazine in New York City that wanted article submissions, and I knew nothing about fashion. I had no money. We were quite poor, and I thought, but I like writing, this should be fun, and sent them off, and to my surprise I had a couple accepted. My first two interviews were actually eco designers. I think my very first interview was actually Catherine Susi, who's a mutual friend of
Yes,
Sound Susi.
very good.
Because I think I had eco fashion hits the runway or something I had come up with, and then I had a third one with a Métis designer who was repurposing old blankets and stuff, and had created a collection in honor of her aunt who had passed. And that was my launch into what eco fashion was. I wasn't even aware of it. I mean, I grew up poor. You got hand-me-downs from the church. My dad was a minister, or you shopped in Kmart, which was the budget store, and you sewed it yourself. I sewed a lot of stuff myself, but I never had any money. We
Yeah.
always did it. My husband cut my hair. So over the course of the next 15 years, I've interviewed well over 200
Mm.
designers from around the world,
Mm.
either in person or through email Q&As.
I'm one of them.
And what's been shocking is, like, I learned so much from all of them, but my knowledge of your R3 campaign came from talking with designers, and the tide was changing. At the start, those three were hard to find. The students coming out of school weren't talking about it.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, in the last year, of course, everything was online, so I was doing all email interviews, but the number of young designers that had slow fashion, circular fashion, or responsibility in some way worked into their collection and their aesthetic was shocking. The percentage has gone up.
Mm.
So I do think the designers coming out are doing it. What we haven't changed is the industry, and I guess today to me is our conversation is more about education, which I talked about the last time.
Yeah,
It starts with education, it starts with young people. But
yeah,
my theme for the start of this is less is more. When I finally had some money and I needed to start building a wardrobe and get a proper haircut that my husband didn't do because I was at representing a magazine, um, I still, with the help of the stylist, I built this beautiful wardrobe, but I still bought pieces that I didn't need. I bought too much. And even now there's always that idea of, well, things have changed. I need something to freshen my wardrobe.
yes,
And that's not
absolutely.
wrong,
Yes.
but with all the fast fashion sites, you're on Amazon, you're on Facebook, you're
Yeah,
playing a game on your iPad, and all these fast fashion sites are coming up,
yeah,
and they're selling things for $34 that look amazing. And then you get them and they're poor, they're poorly sized, the fabric isn't what you've seen. They've often stolen those from other
yeah,
sites. So
yeah,
what I have come to is a reminder of what a designer, one of the first designers I ever bought from, told me was that, you know, you buy quality pieces, you
yeah,
buy pieces that work together,
yeah,
and then you keep it fresh by buying a few new pieces each season that
absolutely.
fit in with what you have. So it's not everything I buy is not handmade by a designer and super
Mm,
expensive. But
mm,
if I buy a piece of fast fashion,
mm.
I still buy it carefully
Yes,
and I buy it knowing how it will fit in my wardrobe.
yes,
I also wear it less so that it lasts longer. So I don't
yes,
just wear it one season and throw it
yeah,
away. So there's this idea of thoughtfully purchasing. And it's something
yeah,
I always have to remind myself because you
yes,
see all the new things coming out and you think, and you look in your closet and you think, oh, it's all old. Like it's all,
yeah,
I've worn that 100 times,
yeah,
but I tend to wear more separates than dresses simply because um, I can take a new piece with a 10-year-old piece and a
yeah,
piece of jewelry and
yeah,
create a new look.
absolutely.
Something that looks new, even though not all the pieces are new.
Yeah,
And so it's less is more, and purchasing thoughtfully is kind of the first introduction I think most people
that
need
is
to where we need to go as consumers.
right.
You shouldn't feel shame if you buy a t-shirt you love from your band,
Yeah,
but you should know where it fits in your wardrobe. You
absolutely.
should know how you're going to wear it and how you're going to carefully care for it so you don't fill the ocean with microfiber, micro plastics, and you learn to take care of things differently. I hang a lot of stuff dry now.
Yeah,
I didn't used to do that. I hang a
absolutely.
lot of stuff dry and it's lasting longer. It's not fading.
Yeah.
It's not getting holes in it. So that was kind of the first thing I thought I would throw out that I knew you would like to speak to as
Abs-
well.
I so agree with you. I think you've said it all. I really find it the fact that you think exactly like I have had to do over the last few years. The way I fell into this was being so disappointed walking to a shop and all the clothes are on the floor because they're that cheap. No one cares. They pick up, they don't like it, it's not the right size, it's not the right color, it's everywhere. And I just thought, do people know where these things come from? How much trouble went into making the garment? I knew I had to say something, I had to speak about this. But also, growing up, I was the third in a family of 9 children. So for me, I wore hand-me-downs from my older sisters, and so I repaired, I changed things up, I added things too. So I knew this is something that I'm comfortable with. You know, I have done this all the time, and I didn't want to make clothes, believe it or not. I wanted to be um, an artist, paint, sketch, do all kinds of things, sculpture. That's what I wanted to do. And most people don't know that's where I started. I fell into fashion because I couldn't carry on as an artist. Something happened, but that's a story for another time.
Okay.
And so I decided that if I'm going to do fashion, then I have to give it my full, whatever creativity I have in me is going into it. And then halfway down the line, I was so disappointed to see when I came to England and I saw fast fashion. the story, everything, things don't last. You one season, the next season, if you wear it, everybody's like, that's so last year. Yeah, I had to do something. I could not carry on in the fashion industry the same way I was before. So it's my children laugh at me sometimes because I keep telling them I had like 10 garments, if at all, growing up. I had my best dress for Sunday. I had my
One
my
pair of shoes.
yes, there you are. And if you wore them out, then you had to wait for, a while before you maybe even got a new pair. So all these things impacted on the way I think. I came from a culture where everything was used to the maximum. Nothing was thrown away. You used things. If the door of the fridge fell off, you put it back on there as long as the fridge was still working.
Yeah.
That's the kind of background I grew up with things like this around me. So it was, now something breaks, you throw it away, the light's not working, just get another one instead of replacing the bulb. So things like this just, I knew that the system was broken in every possible way, and especially in the fashion industry. So, when I hear your story, it kind of resonates really well with me because it's, I know this so well. So what do you think? I think when you talk about education, there's the thing about this is the young people are the ones that really need to get this. I think the older ones now, it's a bit too late to turn minds, but the young people are the ones that we need to kind of get their minds into this way of thinking. Now, if the creatives, like you said, are doing this, what about the people consuming the fashion we produce? Are they aware of this? Do they know, is there enough out there that people, will think, okay, maybe I don't really need to buy that 50p t-shirt. I already have a white one. I don't need another white one because, maybe it's got something on it. Do I really need that symbol, this year? Or can I, things like this. Do you think that is this where we need to kind of, put the effort in educating and getting this word out there? And how?
Well, and here what I've seen, and I shared this in our group thing, is that
Yeah.
the home ec programs are being deleted because of money.
Yes.
And one of my youngest son went to a different high school, and they had a 4-quarter course you took, and you took
Mhm.
wood shop, you took something else, you took uh, sewing and cooking. You
Yeah.
had just had one quarter of your school year just to
Oh
give
my
you the basic
God.
exposure. I don't think it's done anymore. And several schools used to have sewing and cooking
Mm.
programs. They're not done anymore.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it starts with young people and it starts with their parents, but it starts with young people being exposed. Nobody should leave school without knowing how to sew on a button and how to put in a hem, because to me, you often don't have money at the beginning.
Yes.
And what's the first? Your hem falls out or your
Yeah.
button comes off.
Yes.
I really think there should be in all schools the ability to do some sort of handcrafted arts,
Yeah.
whatever it is, whether it's
Yeah.
knitting or crocheting or darning or embroidery, or where people can come and learn these old skills to keep them up.
Yeah.
I had one quote from Jane Milburn, who I've connected you with from
Yes.
Textile
Yes. I
Beats.
can't
It
wait to
says,
talk
"Until we make something for ourselves to wear," I'm sorry, it's on my monitor.
That's okay.
"Until we make something for ourselves to wear, we cannot appreciate the resources, time, and skill that go into the clothes we buy." Um, and that's true of everything. It's true of race relations and religion and politics and fashion, is that people don't understand what a good garment is.
Yeah.
They hear the horror stories, but they still say, "Oh yeah, I got that at the outlet store for 20 bucks."
Absolutely.
It's I'm not ashamed of getting a good deal on
Yeah.
something if I got it because it was a previous season, I shopped
Yeah.
thoughtfully.
Yeah.
But the idea that you win and are a good consumer because you got it at the cheapest
Yes,
possible. So to
absolutely.
me, that education, it's like appreciate the arts or anything.
Yeah,
It starts with children.
yeah,
And so I see schools, even elementary schools, needing some exposure to this in
yes,
school, just as a part of it. They could even use it as a math project. I
yeah,
mean, when I was sewing
absolutely.
dance costumes,
Yeah,
I cut out circle skirts for ballet exams with a ruler. I cut out several hundred a year, but I had to go back and remember what the formulas
ah,
were.
there you are.
Um, but I think there's ways to incorporate it in small amounts without
Yeah,
having giant, but also having the ability for uh, people who want to embrace it at an older age. The number of people who said, geez, I wish I knew how to put a new zipper in this. This is a
yeah,
really expensive.
yeah,
Most sewing stores have some sort of classes, but I don't think people are aware of them.
yeah. I
Um,
think, yeah,
so I would like to see, I mean, it's all about education. As how the designers do it, I don't know, but I think the number one thing they need to put out is another thing is that bring me a good quality piece from your closet you love that no longer serves you. Your
yeah,
body has changed, the styles have changed, you
yeah,
don't want to throw it out.
yeah,
You you would like to keep using it. And when the first time I heard somebody was doing this in their studio, yeah, bring it in and we'll redesign it. I was floored. People do that.
they do. I
Um,
do. I do this.
I know. Well, I know, but people don't know
Yeah,
they can do that. So there
yeah,
is the concept out here that we will donate everything to here is Value Village, the
yeah.
thrift store,
Charity.
and
Yeah,
it'll
that's
all get
exactly it.
reused. And the
Yeah,
truth is, only a very small percentage of it gets reused. The rest ends up in a landfill or
absolutely.
sent to a foreign
Yeah,
country where they can't use that.
that's it.
So education comes in making people aware of these things, and how you get that out into the general population, I don't know, because our
Yeah,
kids are bombarded
yeah,
on Instagram and social media and at school and in magazines and on TV with you must have the latest stuff. You must be
yeah,
unique and interesting. You have to have this, you have to have that. No, that's last season's, throw it away.
yeah,
They're bombarded that this is the normal
yeah,
and trying to get the other message out. It's like a little whisper in the background while a tsunami is going on.
absolutely.
So I have lots of ways I could see this happening,
Yeah,
but it takes a real community effort
yeah,
to do this, to come together to make it happen.
yes,
One place I know they have been doing it with women we have the downtown east side, but women who are perhaps on the street or in very poor circumstances, are teaching them these skills. That's something they can come and learn, because then they have the ability to change a little bit of their life. They gain some control.
yeah. I think you just said it all there. One of the things that I really kind of struggled with was seeing the amount of clothing that ended up in landfill.
Yeah.
Billions of money is lost in revenue because these things could be repurposed, could be reused, could be used for all kinds of things, building, you know,
Mhm.
making new cloth, cleaning. But because they end up in landfill, and not because they sent them off to a charity shop and they were not sold, but because we put them in our dustbin within our household waste.
Yeah.
That's where it happens. It's a t-shirt, or it doesn't matter, in the bin, you
Yeah.
know. But that t-shirt is the very perfect thing to repurpose into cleaning, floor cleaning things, rags for the home. So there things just getting this conversation. I think this is where the Arthur conversation comes into play, is that people knowing what happens really happens. And because there've been I don't know about you in Canada, here, there's been a lot of information put out there. TV programs, magazines, written newspaper articles. There's so much out there now, but I'm hoping that people don't look at it and just turn away. They're actually taking it in and understanding that there is no a way. When we throw things away, they go somewhere, and that somewhere is impacting on somebody else's life or on
Yeah.
wildlife or on them, something is happening. So when I go to Africa and I find places where they sell secondhand clothing, if they cannot sell it, even though they've paid money for it, they can't keep it. They have nowhere to store it. They put it all out there and they light it up.
Wow.
Yes,
That's not good for the air either.
not good for the air.
No.
Not good for those, boys who are homeless, who live around these places where they are also trying to go through the, rubbish that's out there to get some plastic to sell, because they sell plastic, they sell tin, they sell all these things to make some money for their families. So when you understand that this is what's happening in that away where things go to, think about the choices that you're making when you buy these garments or when you're getting rid of them. There's some of the things that I feel that need to be shared. And one thing that we do is we do workshops in schools. But I think I'm not doing enough of this. I do workshops in schools. I would like to do more, but getting you to come in, for them, it's like losing a whole hour of something they could be doing. Do you understand? And even though you tell these children replace the button, they don't know how to do it. So you have to teach them to replace that button. So you need to do a whole workshop about how to repair things, how to fix that hemline that's come undone, or redo that seam that's come apart. So all these things are skills that they need, basic skills. And some people think, oh, I will have enough money when I grow up, so I don't need to repair things. I will just buy new. They don't understand. It's not about the fact that you will have the money. It is what you do to the environment.
We had a TV program here called What Not to Wear, and one of the best things they did was they took people out, taught them how to shop, taught them how to create a wardrobe. What do you need? How things went together, and then they pinned it and said, now take this to the tailor. Most dry cleaning stores have a tailor or tailor shops because nothing fits everybody, and have it adjusted to you. So they were training people to think about their purchase in terms of unity, and then giving them permission to go. So you have money now, you don't have to do it yourself. That doesn't mean you can't have somebody do it for you.
Absolutely.
Just because you're rich doesn't mean you should be throwing things into the landfill. Because you're rich, you have the opportunity to keep things from going in, because you can hire the professionals, the young designers that are desperate to make a few bucks on the side. There are people out there that will help you with this. And if you just need them to fix a seam and a button, that's fine. If you need them to let it out because you gained a little. But the idea that our clothes are not disposable, even the pieces I get that are not quality pieces are carefully thought out pieces. They are bought with an eye to how they fit into my wardrobe, and I take care of them differently so they still last. But they're my fun pieces. I pull them out like a graphic prints, and the pieces that maybe I can't wear on my daily clothes. I have to have things that are quality. I think my biggest shock a couple of years ago, my daughter got married. I went in the stores, everything was polyester and sequins, and the awful mother of the bride stuff. And I thought, I'll sew something. So I went in the fabric store, and it was 90% polyester and synthetic blends. 90%. I couldn't even find a nice piece of, say, a summer weight wool knit, something like that. So I almost have, so what's happening, that's what's in our fabric stores as well. When we're pushing everybody to get away from that, why are we not offering home sewers quality fabrics in the store, at least a small section of it for those of us who know? I find that all the information is out there, but people watch what they are drawn to. So if they like music, they watch the music videos, and if they like this, you have to be interested in fashion and world and eco things to watch those things. And the people that don't know often don't choose to watch it. So how do we get the information to them in a way that matters, that hits them in their life? And that's a big question. We're not going to solve it today.
No, we're definitely not going to solve it. But I think in the case of schools, I think it's just keep knocking at those doors and just keep kind of making that effort to share this.
Yeah.
'Cause I believe the young people are the ones. I mean, I taught my children. My
Yeah.
son, knows how to replace,
Yeah.
by the time he was 11, he knew how to replace a button or, do a
Yep.
small stitch in something if it's coming undone. And my youngest, the same. I have to make sure that they know these things. My daughter, the same. It was so important for me to teach them because I wanted them to, when they're not with me, because I do all the repair, because that's what happens. If you make all the time, if
Yeah.
you're a chef, no one is going to cook in your house, right?
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that I taught them because when they're not with me, if they're not living with me, what happens? When they go away to university,
Yeah.
I needed to know that they would make sure
Yep.
that everything was their repairs were done by them and they didn't
Yep.
have to do without or throw anything away. So yeah, so I think with the young children, this is where we need to focus.
If you can only start one place, you start with the young children because
Yes,
you're building. I've said this before, you build from the bottom.
yeah,
I failed with my sons because they were not interested and they were being bullied,
yeah,
and I didn't want to force them. But my daughter went to kids sewing classes for 4 years. She started
yeah,
in grade 3, and
yeah.
at the end of the year, they got to walk a little runway and show off 2 little outfits they've made and stuff. But somebody else sat them down. Somebody else sat at the machine. Somebody else did those
Mm.
things,
Yeah,
and it was great because she doesn't sew a lot, but still,
mm.
she wants a Halloween costume. She does it.
There you are.
So
And her
I
daughter.
wish I'd pushed my boys some, but just with what was going on socially
Mm.
for them at the time, there's no way they'd have gone to a sewing class. So,
Yeah, yeah.
eh,
Well, at least you know something, and that's
yeah,
something that you can hang on to there. And one of
yeah.
the things that I wanted to talk about actually today was because you've raised children, what would you do when you'd go shopping for them? And you know how quickly they grow. They get to that stage where they go through a growth thing, and suddenly they're like 3 inches taller in the summer. Did you ever notice that with your children? So what did you do? Because what I did was I always bought, when I bought school uniform, I always bought with it about at least 2 inches on the leg because I knew they would not change much in body size, but their height would just obviously keep shooting up there. And so I used to make sure that I bought with 2 inches extra there, and on the sleeves I bought in like 2 sizes up. There was two. I know they used to complain. What did you do?
I cried. I cried. My kids were very skinny and very tall.
Yeah.
My daughter in grade 7 was a size 10 little girls, and she was 5'7" with a 34-inch inseam. So she cried. She was getting bullied, but honestly, no pants fit her because she was so tiny and her legs were so long. So I made her stretch velvet jazz pants, and she lived in those because, and
Oh,
I just do it. But my kids were really hard to fit clothes, but they got basics. They just we didn't have uniforms, so we stuck
yeah.
with basics,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I always bought them knowing they grow anywhere from 1 to 4 inches every year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So and with 3 kids, we wore them out. Like
Yeah.
my kids wore them out. They didn't have huge wardrobes. They had X amount of pants and shirts and
Yeah.
t-shirts. I mean, at one point, I got tired of jammies and I went and bought all extra large men's t-shirts and with funny
That
graphics,
was
and that was
it.
their jammies for
That
a
was
few
it.
years from
Absolutely.
the thrift store, and I got those from the thrift store.
Yeah.
So, um, shoes were a little more predictable,
Yeah.
but my kids did not fit the clothing in the
No.
stores. They
Yeah.
just did not. So shopping was a monster.
Yeah.
And my kids cried they couldn't get tearaway pants and they didn't fit them. They
Yes.
just
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. But and you had a plan there. You knew that when you were buying for them, you had to make sure that you were aware that they're going to grow tall. And this is one of the things I
Yep.
see mothers buying exactly the right size. And I tell them, you can't do that because that child is growing, you know, in the space of 3 months. That's not going to work.
Well, you're going to have very short kids, hopefully, because we didn't have a lot of money. And I think really struggling with our budget really meant you had to think about these things.
Yeah.
If you had, that's why I said, if you have money, you have more choices to make a change here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
often you do less than somebody without money because somebody without money does not have the luxury of
Yeah.
throwing clothes away.
Yeah.
Um, God, my mother used to make me darn socks. Like I'm 66, but I grew up in South Dakota in this little town that was like way behind, and
Yeah,
we were poor as church mice. And my mom had a darning basket, and we
yeah,
would darn not the kids' socks, but my dad's
yeah,
heavier, thicker socks. And she taught me how to darn. I didn't have to do a lot of them. It
yeah.
didn't last a long time, but some of my earliest memories around grade 3 were learning to darn socks, because back then she couldn't buy more socks.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, absolutely. I know, I understand this. I had to, make do with my socks as well. And, if you had to repair them and use them until they kind of looked wrong, but still you had a pair of socks on, right?
Yep.
So it's something that I've also taught my children. They'll come to me and say, Mom, my sock has a hole in it, and I will, do some hand stitching and repair it. These are things that they're aware of now, and even though they have money because they're working now, they will still repair. So that's
Yeah.
because they were taught from when they were little that you
Yeah.
must repair and extend. You don't have to have, especially when you're a child is growing. You don't have to have tons and tons of clothes for them. You
No.
have to just buy the basics and expand
Yep.
it as you need it.
Yep.
Well,
So I did have some ideas.
yeah,
I've got little notes up all around my video camera.
fantastic.
One of them was
Yeah,
community groups.
yeah,
Having community groups,
that's-
especially for uh, people who have moved to the area. It could
yeah,
be from another part of the country or
yeah,
immigrants or something, but a
yeah,
way for those interested to get together and learn how to sew and do it
yeah,
as a social outing.
yeah,
I also thought of after school groups for kids. They have clubs
absolutely.
for everything else.
Right.
So
You know,
since they have taken most of the sewing out of the school, if it would be finding a sponsor to put the machines in and somebody willing to run it once a week,
yeah,
but having a once a week after school club where
yeah,
the girls don't want to go home, they
yeah,
don't want to go here, they don't want
yeah,
to, that you're trying to keep them out of trouble. So there
yeah,
are ways, if it's not part of the curriculum, to begin to approach some of this stuff, but it
yeah.
does take some sponsorship for
Absolutely,
equipment.
it does. It does. And I think maybe if they get a reward at the end of it, if they get something out of it, then they
Yeah.
might really want to kind of like
Yeah.
do, yeah.
So I'm going to share a book here. I know it's probably backwards. It's called Slow Clothing.
No,
It's
I
by
can read
Jane.
it. Perfect.
Okay, good. Clothing by Jane Milburn. And so in it, she does talk about creativity and the principles behind all of this. She features several people that are doing it. I think she went years and years without buying any new clothes. She just kept redoing hers.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping you'll get to interview her
Oh,
sometime.
I can't wait.
So
We are.
if you're looking for a different way to look at fashion,
Yeah.
this is a great way to start. It talks about the eco side of it and what's happening, and then it talks about her journey and what she's done and ways you can approach it. She does do a little bit of mending in the back. The
Yeah.
other one that I really like and I haven't had a chance to use is called Mending Matters.
Yes.
And so this is by Katrina Rodebaugh. I'm not sure about that,
Yes.
but she goes through all kinds of projects. She talks about how she got into this and then does project after project after project after project on how to mend things and ways you can recreate. The cover shows it. Look at all the
It's just
stitching on the.
brilliant. I just love that. Really,
So
I have seen this. It's amazing,
so
what she does.
so I had a quote from her. Where did it go? We start by slowing down our consumption, evaluating our needs, selecting quality fabrics, prioritizing fair labor secondhand, learning techniques to care for our clothes, and considering how to extend a garment's usefulness. Here's my motto: just begin. Begin with whatever skills you have today and trust that you will deepen your relationship to fashion as you continue. I like that. Just start. Just begin,
Yeah.
start where you are,
Yeah.
make tiny steps. That's what I had to do. I couldn't get a whole new eco wardrobe when I started out. It was baby steps getting there and learning how to my good clothes don't go through the washing machine.
Mm,
And in
mm.
fact, I don't even use the dry cleaner anymore. I hand wash a lot of stuff and hang it
Yes.
dry. And
Yes.
how do I care for my garments that I love?
Mm.
And if I buy, I try not to buy something I don't love, whether it's fast fashion or quality fashion. I buy stuff I love. It's not a whim.
Yes,
It's a purchase. It makes my heart happy. And when you
absolutely.
do that, you care for it differently.
Absolutely. That is the key. Understanding what you are investing in, what your intentionality really, really matters. You know that you want to love this garment, you want to wear it for a long time, you want to be able to keep it away for a year, but still come back to it and look
Yep.
forward to wearing it again. I do that with my garments, and because I make them myself, I can't throw anything
Yep.
away.
Yep.
It's going to my daughter when we're the same height. So it's really, really important to kind of understand what goes into making, because then when you understand what goes into making, when you make your choices when you
Yes.
buy, you make informed decisions. You
Yes.
understand what you're getting into and you choose correctly, and you will enjoy this garment. This is the thing I have about, I always say to people when they buy my garments, is I hope you wear them for a very long,
Yep.
long, long time. Because
Yep.
I have, so obviously a t-shirt is different, but when I have my, like garments that I design that are going out garments, I mean, I'm wearing one of these now, which is a silk print, which spells the words, all these letters spell reduce, reuse, and recycle. So
Oh,
this
good.
is the R3
Yeah.
print. This is the R3
Very
print.
cool.
Thank you. So this, you're getting one of these. So this is silk, and it's responsibly sourced here in the UK. So this can be worn for a very long time. You can hand
Yep.
wash this. It will keep really well. You press it, you put it away, you take it out. I think I have about 10 times, and I've only had it for a year. So that says
Wow.
something, right?
Good for you.
That says something. And I haven't had to wash it every time I wear it. So this is what I tell people is, you don't have to wash every time you wear something. I'm going to have this on for about a couple of hours now today doing this. And then I'll take it off and I'll hang it. And then when all my my perfume has gone off, it will be going back into my wardrobe, and it will be there for the next time I need it. So it's just thinking about little things like that. Put it away, put it in the shower when you're having a shower. That the steam in the bathroom cleans and aerates clothes. So that's how you can do it. Knowing
That
how
was
to,
such an eye opener for me. Nobody ever really talked about cleaning clothes.
yes.
And so I would wear it, I'd throw it in the hamper. My mother would did so much laundry. I'd use 2 towels every time I took a shower, one for my hair, one for my body.
Yeah,
My mother never complained. And
yes,
the idea that I didn't have to do that, that it didn't get so dirty, it had to be
absolutely.
washed every time, and the realization of how much longer my clothes were lasting. I should have known that. I didn't learn that till my 50s.
Oh my God.
Nobody tells you that.
Nobody talks about these things. Yes, I found this out because I knew how to hand wash from when I was little. I mean, growing up, my mother made sure we learned all these things. So I knew how to hand wash. So all my special garments, silks and everything, were hand washed. But when you get a chance to throw everything into a washing machine, it's very, very tempting to do that. You
Yes.
have to stop yourself. So the
Yep.
rule here is we only have one wash, colors every week, and one wash, whites every
Wow.
week. So
That's
if
good.
you're wearing your clothes, just be aware that you're
Yeah.
not going to be throwing them into the washing machine. Obviously, I have boys, and they're going to come back with messy, very messy
Oh,
uniforms.
sports and things like that are different. We're
You
talking
have, yeah,
about
yeah,
daily clothes, daily
yes,
use.
yeah.
I always love something Catherine Susie of Sanssouci asked me in an interview.
Mm,
She said, you need to think about what relationship you want with your clothes. And I mentioned this before. For some reason that still hits me very profoundly. I
mm,
don't love all the clothes I have. And I hope one day when I look in my closet, every piece is good. But I do have more and more pieces that cost me. I had to save up for them. They have stories. I know the designer. I
mm,
know that this or the fabric is unusual
mm,
or it was created in a country and really represents that country for me. All my favorite pieces have a story that emotionally tie them to me. And so even when I can't wear them anymore, either I will find a home for them or
yeah,
I will reinvent them because I love them enough to reinvent them. They're not throwaways. They're pieces of art and pieces I've collected carefully and cherish. And the bigger percentage of your closet, of your wardrobe that has pieces like that, the happier you are, the better you'll take care of them, and the less you'll need to buy. Everything begins to be thought of in a way, how will it fit into my wardrobe, my very special wardrobe? And spending more for something makes you be thoughtful. The fast fashion, if the price is too good to believe, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, what a beautiful picture. I'd like that. And you order it and it comes in and it's, and the fabric's bad and the sewing's bad and it doesn't really look like the picture. You don't get emotionally attached to those. You don't keep them. You don't wear them. So thoughtful purchases, spend more, let it cost a little more so that when you do it, you know it's worth it. You had to stop and think, can I afford this piece? How will I use it in my wardrobe? But that relationship with your clothing, the clothes I love all have stories. And a lot of them, I know who made them. I may not know them well, but I know who, even they may not be the best looking piece of clothing on me, but when I wear them, I think of that person. So what relationship do you want with your clothes? What is important to you? And then spend the time and effort to buy thoughtfully in a way that helps you build that relationship that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something that I have read somewhere. The clothes that we wear are an expression of our beliefs and lifestyles. They're our identity. They express who we are to whoever meets us, so people can read you from the way you're dressed. So it's so important to understand, and that's where, for me, as through my work, I came up with this phrase of the history of a garment is just as important as its future, because when you choose to buy something, like you were saying, knowing why you want it, knowing the story behind it, informs on why you choose to buy it. So the way you're going to use it now is going to impact on how you get rid of it. So that is its future. So if you really love it, but you can't fit in it anymore, if you give it to somebody else to love it and use it, there you've done your job. You have not thrown it away, it hasn't gone to waste. I think that is the key there, is to valuing, being in love with our clothes. That is it. You express yourself through your clothes. So if you don't love them, you can't really express, they'll be wearing you. You can't express yourself through them. So Catherine that's a perfect point.
So I have a dirty secret, and that is often the things I wear around the house are just like yoga wear from Costco and stuff. And that started because I had so little money. And as I added these pieces I loved, I carefully saved them. I only wear that when I went out the door, I would dress up. When I went to an event, and when I come home, I'd carefully take them off and hang them. I could get 10 wears out of them.
Yes.
But I still struggle on a daily basis, because buying clothes I truly love means I don't want to wear them every day and have them wear out. So that's my dirty secret I'm still working on. 15 years and
I'm going to keep it. I'll be asking you next time I see you. It's brilliant. That's a good one to have. That's a very good problem to have. I think it's better than saying you throw them away. That is a really good one. This brings me perfectly to this point that I wanted to ask. Do you think upcycling is, we've talked about this, the adding value, making these garments last longer by changing them, adding things to them, taking them apart and bring them back together. Do you think this is a trend that is here to stay? I mean, it's always been there, has always been there, but maybe now it is now taking hold.
I still find that's the shadow behind that most people aren't aware of. Most people are aware of consignment shopping now. Most people are aware of vintage. Oh, this is a vintage Dior, You hear those things, even you'll see it on the red carpet. But I don't hear people that are in front of the media talk about, oh yeah, this is a suit I'd had for a long time. I loved it so much. So I took it in and had it remade upcycled into something new. You never hear anybody in the media talking about it. So I know designers that do it, but I don't find it out in the public yet. So I still think that's a wave that's coming.
Yeah.
Hopefully it arrives. Like it takes just one very visible person to start
Yes,
talking about this for it
yes,
to catch
yes,
on.
yeah,
And so it's finding that one person that can put that out there, because buying quality is one thing, but having to keep replacing it as your body changes, which most
absolutely.
people think they do,
Yeah,
doesn't work. So understanding that a quality piece can also be adapted and changed as
mm,
you grow and
yes,
as styles change. You can take the
absolutely.
collar off. You can
Yes,
do, we have a great fashion historian here, and he will show a garment
mm,
sometimes and say, this was owned by this person and it is not the original. She has taken it and adjusted it. In the original, it would have looked like this, and this is what she did to update it. And I appreciate that. Well, he knows enough to
mm,
know that.
mm,
Um, so it was interesting. He also said, and maybe that's where we're going to have to head, is that in
mm,
times of need,
yes,
when supplies aren't as accessible and stuff,
yes,
fashion doesn't change as much.
yes,
They changed the fashion shorter, longer in
yeah,
ways that's hard to use the closet you have
yeah,
to make you buy things.
absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
time to feel manipulated. It's time to feel manipulated.
Yes,
If they have made you buy lime green, I don't wear that, but lime
yeah,
green last season, and now
yeah,
say, oh, that's so 70s, you can't
yeah,
wear that anymore,
yeah,
you're being manipulated. So we need to get a little bit
yeah,
angry about
yeah,
this, and we
big,
need to understand that anything, any piece of
yeah,
garment
yeah,
can be taken apart and remade and
absolutely,
modernized.
absolutely.
Anyone, if it's a quality garment, if you spent the time to get something with proper fabric and proper construction,
That is
it will come apart and go back together.
Yeah, that is it. I think you just said it to that. That's exactly what it is. It's got to be a good quality garment to be able to take it apart and put it back together. Well made, and obviously good textile. You know, the
Yes.
textile, the materials have to be
Yeah.
really good as well. I think that it's quite exciting for me to see how I have clients who get it and keep coming back to me with their own purchases from other places that they have used and want to keep using them. They come to me to add value to them. I think you met Winnie. Winnie's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in the panel we had the other on the 16th, she's one of those who comes with a whole suitcase and we get things done for her. But others are coming to as well. And when they see me in my upcycled denim, they want theirs done as well. So that's an exciting thing. So it's through sharing word of mouth it happens, but I also have it on my website. I share this to everyone who cares to listen, that we can all do this, and it doesn't take anything away from you to repurpose something that you have loved to use again and again. You can upcycle it 3-4 times.
Yeah.
there's no
If the fabric is good and you take
yeah,
care of it, it lasts a
yeah,
very, very long
it
time.
does.
We pay thousands of dollars for vintage pieces that
Yes,
people have taken care of because
yeah,
they have value. Well, what we have now becomes the next vintage.
absolutely,
So you need to
absolutely.
take care of it. And again, you need to buy thoughtfully.
Yeah,
That idea of I give myself permission not to buy everything super high quality, expensive, best fabric, best sewing,
mm,
but anything that doesn't fit into that is really carefully thought out.
mm, mm,
It is the
mm,
occasional purchase. I know its place in my life and how I will use it so it's not thrown away next season.
yeah,
It has to have a life as well. It has to have a story that continues.
yeah,
So there's all kinds of layers. I think we have to let go of guilt.
yeah,
Like they said,
absolutely. No, there's
you
no guilt
start where
there.
you are.
No,
You
that is it. That is it.
Every season, I tell people, if you want to get started every season, buy one or two quality pieces from a local designer.
Yeah,
You really
that is
want to help do
creative
this.
in your,
And
yeah,
if you've got one designer, maybe start with just one designer so that they know what you have each season and they can recommend what will go with what you have.
yeah,
That's what I did. I bought almost all my stuff from one designer the first couple of years while we built the basic wardrobe.
yes,
And then I started stepping out and adding the fun pieces and the
yes,
graphic prints and the
yes,
stuff that tucked in as well.
yeah,
But I would buy something and I would say, okay, this skirt by this designer will go in with the silk shirt I have from that designer.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
know where the good purchases fit in
yeah,
my closet.
yeah,
And if you know where they fit, you will get value from them.
Yeah, I think what you said there is perfect, because some people think that you have to throw everything away and then go out to spend a lot of money buying eco fashion. No,
No.
that's not what it is. You start little by little,
Where
understanding,
you are.
making the choices, and then it grows. And as it grows, it becomes a natural thing. I think for me, the biggest part of me doing what I do now, it became a lifestyle choice. I chose this in my personal life. So we started buying organic. So this is going back more than 26 years ago. And when I started buying organic, I knew that it had to, in the end, it had to go straight into my work as well. So because you're already thinking like that. So when you look at things, you see them. They don't just pass you by, or your eyes are not, they're not invisible to you. There's words or symbols or products. Because if you'd asked me 20, 30 years ago what organic is, I know what organic means, but I didn't understand it in the way I apply to it, and the way I respond to it now. It's a totally different way. It's understanding what fundamentally all these things that are being, the word sustainability. We were saying the other day that the greenwashing, it's lost some of its real meaning because everyone is using it. And sometimes people don't get it. We're saying, this business is sustainable and they're printers. What does that mean? They're printers.
Yeah.
And then that fashion designer calls themselves, what does that mean? Because they don't understand that the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 or 18 of them, all of them apply to different parts of the industry. And everybody is affected by all those goals, one way or the other. Life underwater, fair wages, the environment, climate action, all these things. These goals are there. You just Google and read through them, and then you realize, my gosh, I work in, you might be working in estate agents, but how can you create a sustainable space there? It's how you dispose of the food that you're eating there while you're at work. It's all, what paper are you using? How much printing do you have to do? These things, that's how you apply this. It's a way of thinking. So when I say it's a lifestyle choice, you change the way you think, and bit by bit, you begin to build up on things. So I started with food, and then I went into my work, and then it's everything. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You just are clever in how you spend it, with what you buy. With food, you don't have to buy tons of food. And then in the end, actually, it's healthy. It's healthier to do it this way. But it wasn't cheap. It wasn't an easy thing to do.
No. And we also have to allow ourselves to think simpler. You start cooking with more vegetables and more
Yes.
things,
Yes.
and next thing you know, you're following complicated recipes and
Yeah.
this and that. And I have one friend that can tuck more veggies into standard things.
Yeah.
She even puts a layer of shredded zucchini that's been squeezed, the moisture squeezed out, on her pizza crust before she puts anything else on it, and it's hidden under there. And nobody knows it's there. Like she takes simple, she includes it in simple ways.
That's amazing.
And so that's what I've been trying to learn is I push myself, I follow a lot of recipes to get myself out of a rut.
Yeah.
But then I try to give myself a couple weeks where I look in the fridge and say, okay, what's in there?
Yes.
And I think
you
we
just
need to
use
do that with our
what.
closet too. We all get all caught up. I've
Yeah.
got so many clothes, and I turned around the other day and I thought, I have nothing to wear. It's time to take all the clothes out and look at them
And
again.
look at them. Yes, that is right.
Look
I
at them
think
and say
you've got it
what
there.
works together and
Yeah.
what doesn't work, what serves me
Winter.
and what
Yeah.
doesn't. And I need less, because when
Yeah.
you have too much, it's lost in there.
Yes.
It's
That's
just
right.
lost. I
Yeah.
don't see anything. It's just a blur of fabrics.
Absolutely.
And
A,
yeah,
a good tidy up really helps. A
a
good
good
tidy
tidy up.
up. A good tidy up really helps. You kind of like find all those things that have fallen off the hangers and are stuck at the back of your wardrobe, and you think, oh my gosh, I haven't worn this for 2 years. So I do that. I kind of try to do that every summer, because you have to get rid of your winter and put your summer.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you refresh like that. And when winter's coming again, you find all those winter things that you've forgotten. And so that's a
Oh
good,
yeah.
good way to kind of like small steps. You have to start somewhere.
And
Yeah, just that so much.
just stop making um, impulse purchases.
Yeah.
I like I said, I love interesting things. And so something pops up an ad and I go, that's interesting. I've never seen that. And then you go to the site and it's $34 and you go, it's not going to be that. So I now have a sewing file. All
Yeah.
those pictures that call me
Yeah.
go in a sewing file. And if I really want them,
You
I just need to, or I pay somebody to. I take the
to make
picture to
it.
somebody and pay them to make it.
Yeah.
If I truly think this garment is meant to be in my closet, there's ways to get there
Yeah.
other than ordering in something that comes in and is a huge disappointment.
Absolutely. I see that all the time. I see
If it's $34, it's not going to be a good
questioning.
garment and it's not going to look like the picture. I'm just telling you.
That's the thing. I think, there's a lot of a huge learning curve that, my children have had to learn. When you don't go into a shop to touch and feel and look, and you buy it off, on the internet, you have to be prepared for what's coming for you, because you don't know what is in, they say this is what is in there, but when it turns up, it's how much of that is in there.
Yep.
The reality is so different from what we see on the screen. The screen makes everything look so fantastic, so exciting, and the models look amazing, and then until you get the garments. So yeah, I
I find the sizes are always undersized too. It comes in and it's supposed to be a large and it's like a small, and it's like you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yes.
I tried once or twice to say, okay, what's going on? Let's check this out. And I was so disappointed. There's whole places, threads of people sharing pictures of what it showed and what you got. And one time I searched the picture and found out it was a picture of a fashion editorial from a high-end couture designer. And they stole the picture and put it on their website and were selling the dress for $34. Like, no.
Oh, now that's I had forgotten that side, that ugly side of things. That fakery. That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Right. So I know time. How much time have we got?
Yeah, it's probably time. I have another quote for everybody to think about. Live with less, have a signature style, and a minimal wardrobe. So most people don't. It's like, what relationship do you want with your clothes? Who are you in this moment? Do your clothes reflect that? So you don't need 200 million clothes. That means you don't know who you are. I like being different people. So I have a little section of kind of bohemia and a little section of high-end classy, like red carpet. I've got some little sections through my closet. I'm not always one person, but people buy stuff with no idea of what the image they want to present is. How's that? You kind of touched on that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because our garments are an expression of who we are.
Yes.
And
you said that.
Yeah, so that's
So that's bringing it full circle back to your opening.
Absolutely.
Have a signature style and a minimal wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Live with less.
Yeah, and I know your style, and I know there's the sassy you, and there's the this is business now, and then there's the boho chic, Marilyn, and I love all your style because you have the perfect body. And I know you say you hide but you do it so well.
No, my bust, waist, and hips are all the same size. I dress carefully.
We don't see that.
Because I dress right.
So that's how you know how to choose for your body, and that's the key. Knowing your body and knowing that this is going to work for me, and doesn't matter how curvy, how lovely that woman looks in that garment, I'm not having that. And you draw the line there. If others will just go for it because it looks good and I'm going to have it, and I look like her. So I do get some of that. I do a lot of bespoke work. So I do get people who come in and they want, and we have to sit down and understand what we're dealing with. And I share with them because I also am a woman of certain shape and things. So I cover things. Yeah. So I cover things. So I know what it's like, when you have, Lots of
But
things
yeah, no, I'm very fortunate that
camouflage.
I've had really good advice. I've
Yes,
had people who have taught me. I also pat myself on the back for being willing to listen
yes,
and allowing myself to
listening.
be in somebody else's hands until I
Yeah,
understood. And
yeah,
it took a long time because when I was young, I was 115 pounds. I had no boobs. I looked like a little stick.
yeah,
And after 3 kids, my body changed and I didn't know how to dress that body. So I didn't know what kind of glasses looked good on me. I didn't know what my hair should be. Um, and I was fortunate to find people I trusted, and then I trusted them. I put
yes,
myself in their hands until I figured it out.
yeah, yeah,
But there's always teachers, there's always
yeah,
people willing to help you.
yeah.
And listen. It's not hard to learn if you listen.
No, absolutely. I think listening is the key thing. And this is what we've been talking about now, is
Yeah.
sharing these things and making people listen, getting the message out there. And the key is, will they want to listen? But,
Yeah.
listening is the key thing
Yeah.
to change our lifestyles, make those choices that matter. Because at the end of the day, we are going to leave a planet. What kind of planet are we going to leave for our children?
Yes.
Their children's children. And even though you don't have children, you still have relatives who
Yeah.
have children. So you
Yes.
still have nieces, nephews, and somebody is going to be
Yeah.
around to pick those pieces, and what are they going to be dealing with? So I think for me it was a no-brainer. I knew what I had to do, and it's so exciting to be sharing this with you. And
This was fun.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I really love this. And there's so many other things as well. I think with this now, getting the conversation started. So the next time we meet again, we'll be talking about all these other things that we are, what we have done, and who you've shared your story with. And we're going to be sharing your story with our friends. And yes, because it's going out, we're going to share it on
I
YouTube.
don't know if I have anything else to share.
No, other things, nothing to do with this particular thing.
Okay.
It could be related to. But the thing about the R3 campaign is there's so much to talk about. We haven't even started, because now we're talking about sustainability, but circularity is another thing that's coming up,
Okay.
and that's a whole other thing. But the thing is, they're all connected, and it's knowing where the connections are, and the fact that we're on that path, and somehow we'll get to that place where we won't need these labels anymore. We won't need to be called an eco-sustainable fashion designer or circular designer. We will just be designers, makers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
I would like to see things shrink. I'm tired of big mega labels. I really am. I've never been big on them. A name is only as good as my respect for the designer and the artist. So going into a store and saying, "Oh my goodness, it's a bra," that's never been me.
yeah,
But I just think so many of the problems come because fashion has become really just a business.
it is.
And you go through stores and it takes 10 stores for me to find one piece of
Yeah,
clothing
yeah,
that I look at and it sparks something in me. Like
yeah,
the clothing I see in the stores is not creating an emotional response.
yeah,
So how can I connect with them? And how can I make them a priority and make them last when I can't connect with them?
yeah,
They're just stuff. And
yeah.
I'm tired of fashion being just stuff.
Yeah. And coming from a consumer like yourself, who's been involved in having conversations with makers, creatives like myself, and expressing what you've just said now, I think captures the whole thing about the Ask Me conversation.
Oh, good.
The fact that you're saying that something needs to, you feel that change needs to happen. If the system is broken, and but the change is not only with the maker, it's also with the person consuming. This needs to, these two people or things need to meet and come out with a good result. And I think it kind of like brings me to this thing that I have been thinking about, and just it's the triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. So while makers, producers are always juggling these things, which one goes up in the air, which one has a more stronger, where do they lean the most? Is it the profit? Is that the environment? Is that the people? So it's, so it is just getting the right balance, because we're all trying to make a life, make a living, make some money, but how we do what we're doing really matters. We can't just go ahead.
We just have to get away from our current idea of success and profit.
That's it.
Because it's all based on growth. More people, more sales, more. Heaven forbid you find a comfortable level you can produce at a responsible world level. That's considered failure, because you're not growing.
Absolutely.
And I really don't like that way of looking at business and success. It's always been a problem for me, and it's due to fail. Eventually we can't have a bigger population. Eventually we can't have more stuff, and we're going to have to take a huge step back, because it is not sustainable for the next 1,000 years. It's just not. So, but right now, success is defined by profit, which is that grows every year, and that means you're going to cut corners.
I know exactly what you're saying, and this is why we're where we are now in the fashion industry, because corners have been cut. The Rana Plaza incident was the like the big light bulb moment. If people didn't get it then we are in a dark, very dark place, and that is what really bothers me. I'm in the industry where people ask you, how much, what are your sales figures? What level are you at? And I'm thinking, that's not my bottom line. So try again, ask me another thing, what do you want to, talk about something else? Because for me, that's not the conversation I want to have.
My question is usually, are you making a living?
Yes, that is
like,
that
do you have food? Are you saving for the future so you won't be destitute when you're old? To me, there's priorities there, but how much you produce and profit every year really has very little to do with quality of life.
Compromising, I think, is a key thing there. It's just completely losing, juggling those things and ending up with a whole different pattern, and that's.
I'm laughing. I didn't think we'd find enough to talk about.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I told you. It's a natural. Once we get talking, there are things that we, and I'm so glad that we got this chance to kind of go deeper into what you started talking about the other day. And I think you've shared some amazing insight to what could be done, and how things were, and how you've changed the way you do things, and that for somebody who's maybe was in the same place you were then would see and maybe take on what you've shared with us. And
well, I hope if people can learn anything, it's to talk and listen. I learned what I did in my 50s and early 60s by listening to designers, by interviewing them on their story and what was happening. Eco designers would share their passions and why they felt the way they did. You talked about Barkcloth. Like, I owe my knowledge to over 200 people that sat and shared with me. And so if I can encourage anybody to do anything, is just to talk to people, to ask them. I mean, read, Slow Clothing, which is Jane Milburn's kind of offering. Since you can't go to Australia, maybe, and talk to her face to face. But I mean, there's so much out there in terms of information. If you're interested, open your eyes by listening. Ask people questions. They will tell you. I mean, one of the young designers, I shared this last time, now has a QR code on every garment she makes that you scan it and it tells you the fabric and where it was made and how to wash it. And it's a responsible, she wants to be visibly responsible. So I find most designers are willing to share and talk to you and happy to do it. And that's how I learned. It didn't just grow because I'm this amazing person. I listened. So ask, read, interview.
I think that's a good place to close. Ask the right questions, listen when you're being told, share, what you and practice it. practice it. I think
Yeah.
that's the perfect way to kind of start moving in that direction of changing our lifestyle choices and
And
make,
decide what relationship you want with your clothes.
yeah, fabulous.
That was really the moment I began to think.
Mm, mm, mm.
It's
Yeah,
like your home, your
yeah,
clothes, your kids, your
yeah,
friends.
yeah,
We all make those decisions. So
yeah,
yeah. So if I
absolutely.
can leave anybody with everything, it's that just start where you are and
Yes,
start by looking in your closet and say, who do I want to be? Do my clothes show that?
yes. It's fabulous. Well, thank you. I think that's
Okay.
amazing, amazing. Yeah.
Little heart.
Love. Thank you. Big hugs and love to everyone. Absolutely.
And and
A
hoping
pleasure. It's an honor to have you.
next year UK is on our travel list. So if
Please.
things open up, Glenn has already said that's where he wants to go next. So we
Brilliant.
may be
You're
together
welcome.
yet again in the same room.
Absolutely. Well, warn me because I must be here for your visit. Like when Randy came, I was here. I want
Yeah.
to be here for yours.
Yep.
So let me know so that I can
Yep.
prepare and I can cancel all my plans and be here.
Well, and
Absolutely.
there's you, there's Catherine, there's oh, Stevie's gone right now. I've always wanted to meet Sass Brown, and every time I go where she is, she's somewhere else. So she's there too. I want to meet her in person. Yeah. So yeah, my
Good.
husband will have to give me a day of socialization that he goes to the pub and has a Guinness or something.
It would be so fabulous to see you
Okay.
here in London and doing it.
Okay.
Catherine,
So
absolutely.
next year,
We can do a big thing, with Catherine and yeah.
next year.
Brilliant. We hang on to that thought.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.